This episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast is brought to you by Bluehost. Try the #1 recommended web hosting provider. With plans starting at just $3.95 a month, you'll get a free domain, free site builder, easy one-click WordPress installs, and 24/7 support. But what's just as impressive as what you get is what you don't get, as there's no contracts, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks. Go check them out at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/Bluehost. You're listening to the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast, the weekly show sharing proven methods and systems in marketing, equipment, and customer service, educational and motivational, to help make your lawn care business an overwhelming success. Now here's your host, Julio Tomei. Welcome, Lawn Care Nation, to another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I'm your host, Julio Tomei, and this is episode number 158, entitled Tips for Mowing Small Lawns. Well, hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining me this week on another episode of the Lawn Care Business Success Podcast. I really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week and downloading those episodes, as well as for the questions, the comments, the feedback that has been coming through. Like I said, I really do appreciate that, and as well, of course, for the podcast reviews that you guys have been leaving on iTunes. That in particular is fantastic. It adds that social proof to the podcast for those that are searching through those podcast directories like iTunes, and they come upon my podcast and can see that you guys have left reviews for it. It really makes it that social proof that the episodes are truly valuable, that you do find value in what I talk about each and every week. And just makes it, easier for people to click on that download button and give the show a try. So like I said, I really do appreciate that as well. And just a reminder again this week that I did put the downloadable documents. I have made them available on the resources page of the Lawn Care Business Success website. You can find them at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/resources. And those, of course, are the 8-page landscape maintenance contract in Microsoft Word document format, as well as the 8-page employee handbook that you can download and edit in Word, customize them, and use them in your own business. So those are available there for a small fee at lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/resources. On that page as well, you'll find a lot of the links to some of the affiliates that I have used in my own lawn care business. So I'm going to play the podcast announcements, and then we'll get into this week's episode in its entirety right after this, so stay tuned. Hey guys, if you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/contact. For you Instagram users out there, be sure to follow me at Lawn Care Business Success. And if you haven't checked out my videos yet, well, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe to the Lawn Care Business Success YouTube channel. Now, I know you guys love listening to audio while you work as much as I do, so I've partnered up with Audible to offer you guys a free 30-day trial and 2 free audiobooks of your choice. There's no long-term commitments, and you can cancel anytime. And get this, even if you cancel during your free trial period, you still get to keep the 2 free audiobooks. It's a great way to try the service and to see if Audible is right for you. So why not give it a try? Head on over to lawncarebusinesssuccess.com/audible. Now back to the show. Okay, so this week's episode came about because of the recent amount of comments and questions and feedback that I've been getting from people who are green to lawn care, the lawn care business, and landscaping in general. A lot of you guys starting out your businesses or thinking about starting out businesses, may have had no previous experience mowing lawns, at least not, as a job or as a way of income, you may have had experience mowing your own lawn. And just or experience maybe as a kid mowing lawns and things like that, but don't mow lawns professionally, let's say. So I thought it would be beneficial for me to just talk about how I approach small residential lawns, sort of the format or, the order that I do things. And hopefully you guys that are new to lawn care will be able to pick up some tips. Now, just a disclaimer. And just like all of the other episodes that I have produced, all 158 episodes, as well as YouTube videos and everything, what I say is based on my experience over the past 13 years running my own lawn care business. This does not mean that this is the only way to do something. This is not gospel, if you will. It's more like gospel according to Julio. And as the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear for all of you guys out there, listening, that, I don't proclaim to know all the answers to everything, or that I, am the be all and end all when it comes to lawn care businesses or anything like that, or some sort of, a guru or something when it comes to lawn care businesses. Just wanted to make sure that you guys are clear about that. I basically can only share what I have learned through myself and through the same as you guys, going out and looking for information on the internet, and just from experience, the biggest one, and just from doing it. And, a lot of those things I have found, work for me, and I've stuck with them. It doesn't mean that they're always the best way to do things, or that there's not better ways to do or go about, that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to make it clear for you guys, just not because anybody has commented anything or said anything, but just, I always want to be aware, and, forthright with you guys to make sure that that, what I'm saying works for me and my conditions with, the types of lawns that I do, but everybody's different. Everybody's types of lawns are different. Everybody's lawn care businesses are different. So just take, what you pick from me, what you learn from me, and, mix it with the other information that you're getting, and just try things out. See what works for you. Experiment. You may find that, something that you've been doing, and that I talk about may help you be more efficient or be quicker, but you may find the opposite. You may find that you have been doing something all along, and you try, maybe a method or something that I talk about, and find that, your way is better. So just, keep it all in, the back of your mind. What do they say? Take it with a grain of salt, and just, figure out what's right for you on your own. So with that being said, like I said, with the amount of questions and comments from relative newbies to lawn care, I thought I would share what I do. Now, as I said, just in context, so my lawn, small lawns, or my business is predominantly servicing small lawns. That is the majority of my income, is small city lawns on the west coast of Canada, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. We get, it is generally the Pacific Northwest region, from here, all the way down through Seattle in the U.S. I would say that the weather is about the same. We get some nice stretches of weather in the summertime, like we're experiencing now. But for the majority of the year, it is, wet, cloudy, rainy, most of the time. So just keep that into, context as well. So with me in my business, I really do enjoy mowing small lawns. In fact, the smaller, the better. I have been enjoying, some slightly larger lawns lately and being able to use the 36-inch turf tracer. But from a sort of profitability side, I would say the smaller the lawns, the better as far as, making a good profit goes. And the reason for this is I have found that, where I live, there is a lot of density happening, a lot of new neighborhoods going up, and because of the skyrocketing prices of property, these new neighborhoods that are popping up, the homes and the property sizes are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. With some of them, the entire property may be 4,000 square feet, and some even going smaller than that. And I call these shoebox homes, because they are literally tiny little houses on this tiny little footprint. And when I pull up to one, just to sort of give you guys context here, and I pull up in my 2005 GMC Sierra HD 2500. It's a crew cab with a short box. My truck alone literally takes up the entire footprint of the width of these properties from property line to property line. And my trailer is now, usually in the neighbor's, property, as far as, boundaries go. So that sort of gives you the context of these tiny little neighborhoods. And with these lawns, it can take me, 5-10 minutes at the most to mow. Just tiny little lawns with a 21-inch mower that you can just bang out quickly. Now, the nice thing about these is that they all fall under my minimum charge. For me and my business, it's $30. Is my absolute minimum charge. So, as most of you guys who have listened to the podcast, you might know that my hourly rate currently is $60 per hour. And that is generally about $1 a minute. So when you look at a $30 lawn, you would think, hey, that, is 30 minutes. And that's generally how I price things out. So a $30 job, basically is me allowing for 30 minutes to do that job maximum. And then the price goes up to that hourly rate. So these small lawns that only take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to bang out, are fantastic because I'm still making my $30 half hour charge, my minimum rate, for, going to that property. And yet I'm spending, 5 minutes. I've had lots of these over the course of my business, and currently I still do service lawns like this. I have one, the new one that I picked up this year, for example, that is, so small that I don't even take the mower with me. I just take the trimmer and the blower. And then for this particular one, it works out great because the parking isn't great for this particular property. So I have to park a little bit farther and walk, but I'm only taking the handheld blower and the trimmer with me to go do the job, and literally takes me about 5 minutes to do this lawn. And, there's that $30 charge for that. Now, those to me are my favorite. They're the most profitable, but they come with a large drawback, and that is, again, as I mentioned, with the width of the properties, is the parking in those neighborhoods. With having a, crew cab, diesel truck, towing a trailer behind, it can be very difficult when you have that many homes in, these little neighborhoods with tight little streets, and every home, everybody's got their own cars and might have tenants in, a basement suite or something like that, which, they have cars too. So it can be very difficult at times to find parking for those. And that is the only downside to those types of properties. The majority of my properties, though, are in I would say, between 7,000 and 10,000 square foot size. That would be the majority, the bulk of all of my properties. And with those, parking isn't so much of an issue because, again, larger properties, quieter neighborhoods, not as dense. Usually not an issue for parking with those. So generally how I approach a residential lawn is that I will, pull up to the lawn. I always plan my routes. As you guys, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that, route density is important to me. So when I'm planning out my routes, the order of the houses that I do, it all has to sort of follow some sort of direction, whatever direction, works for you. Sometimes I start out farther away and work my way back home towards the end of the day. But in either case, whatever, works for me in that particular scenario, even minute details such as which side of the street a house is on can affect where on the schedule it goes on. Because if I'm driving, for example, in a certain direction, if I pull onto somebody's street to mow their lawn and they're on the opposite side of the street, and I would have to then maybe turn the truck around to pull up to their property if there's no parking on one side of the street, or that sort of thing, that can affect where that house is done. Because, for example, what I mean by that is if I'm going and there's, with parking generally on streets, you park here in North America, you're parking on the right side of the street for the direction that you're going on. You park on the direction. So if I'm driving on a street and the house is on my left side, but I'm going, in the direction where the parking would be on the right side, then I will get that house on the way back, even though I'm passing it first, because it saves me the time or the trouble of having to cross the street with equipment and things like that, when I can go, mow some other lawns first. And then when I'm circling back to come back around my route and I come to that house, now I'm parked on the right side where I'm parked right in front of the property, and I can let my ramp door right onto the lawn that I'm mowing and go about it that way. Now, this isn't always the case. It's not always possible. Sometimes, you have to park on the opposite side of the street. I have plenty of neighborhoods where there's no parking on one side of the street. So, inevitably you're going to pick up clients that are on, they live on the side of the street where there's no parking, and you have to park on the other side and move mowers around. But if it's an option, then I'm always going to park on the side of the street that the house is on, just for the efficiency. And I will, like I say, plan out my routes accordingly. Now, ultimately, if I can, plan my routes in basically kind of like a circle where I start off close to home, and maybe cover one whole side of the city, working my way to the farthest house, and then rounding all the way back, and finishing back off in my neighborhood again, then, that is what, I will do. And those are the most efficient and most profitable. So you want to be very conscious of your routes, where the houses are. You don't want to be mowing a house in, say in the neighborhood you live in, and then going out and doing another lawn, and then coming back and doing another one in your neighborhood, and then going out and doing another lawn across town, and then coming back and doing. So you want to make sure that you're planning your routes accordingly. And the other thing that I do is, you want to plan all of your clients on specific days. So I always organize my clients and only do specific neighborhoods within my city or even town on specific days. So I'm only on a certain street, on a particular day. Now, when you're starting out, you're going to get a lot of people requesting quotes on specific days. So what I mean by this, for example, is Fridays. Fridays is the most popular day for residential lawn mowing. Everybody wants their lawn mowed on a Friday. Everybody would get their lawn mowed on a Friday if they, had their way, because then it's nice for the weekend. So one of the ways that I get around this is I just don't mow any lawns on Friday. Because of just the way I have my route set up. So what I have always done traditionally is had Fridays that I don't mow. And I would mow when I started Mondays to Thursdays. Over the past years, because my route density has gotten so tight and I've built up all those clients closer and closer together, I've actually knocked a day off and have been able to do more lawns in 3 days a week than I used to do working the 4 days a week. So now I only mow Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every year, and I've been doing this for the last 3 or 4 seasons now. So I no longer mow on Mondays, and I still don't ever mow on Fridays. So I only mow in the middle of the week. Now, why does this make sense for me? Well, because number one, when a long weekend happens, I don't ever have to reschedule lawns or push them ahead. Like I used to do. So if a long weekend hit on a Monday before, it wasn't too bad because I never did mow on the Fridays. So I'd push everybody ahead one day. So the Mondays became Tuesdays, the Tuesday became Wednesday, the Wednesday became Thursday, the Thursday became Friday, and then the following week it would go back to Monday. Still would add a bit of confusion to a few clients. Most of them got into the rhythm knowing that, hey, it's a long weekend, so next week my mowing is a day later, and then it returns back to normal. But there'd still be a few clients that wouldn't quite get it. Now, the other thing is I've talked about how, for me, there is no real rain delayed type days. I don't stop in the rain. And part of the success of this is that it's small residential lawns, and that most of my lawns that I've been servicing are with a 21-inch mower. So whenever there's wet grass and if there ever is clogs and stuff, it's easy to flip the mower over, wipe it down, and you're back to mowing again. So on the rare occasion, if it's just hammering down rain, I will obviously not mow in the middle of a torrential downpour. But we usually don't get those for very long. Our rain is just more of a constant, just always wet, type rain. When the rain is sort of a heavier type rain season is usually in the winter months, when, there's no mowing to be done anyways, throughout the winter. As our winters are pretty mild, we don't get too much snow here. It's more of a heavier rain. So like I said, I don't really have to worry about those types of things. But throughout the year, when it's raining during mowing season, it's usually a lighter rain, that I can just, continue and mow right through it. But occasionally when it does, hit that really heavy rain, I'll wait it out. If there's an equipment breakdown, same thing. I always have that one day that I can push things ahead. Now, the other nice thing about mowing only 3 days a week for me is that because I do a lot of other types of jobs, do pressure washing, do hedge trimming, all that sort of stuff, those 3 days a week are solid. Customers know I'm going to be there, rain or shine, each and every week, on one of those 3 days, whatever day that they have scheduled, I will be there. If they ask for hedge trimming, pressure washing, any of the other types of jobs, I never do those on mowing days. Mowing days are always just straight mowing, nothing else. For those other types of jobs, that's where I will schedule those jobs throughout the rest of the season. So in the springtime, I'm doing my power raking, I'm doing all my aerations, I may be doing fertilizing, although fertilizing is the one exception as far as jobs go that I'll do on mowing days, because obviously, if I've mowed a lawn and it's time to put fertilizer on it, then I will do the fertilizer right after I finish mowing, because, it'll take 5 minutes or, an extra 10 minutes to do the fertilizer. It's not like a power raking job or an aeration that's going to take a lot longer. I'll do the fertilization, quickly there. That's the only exception to that. So all those other jobs I schedule on my Mondays and my Fridays. And the other thing is I never, when I tell a client from lawn mowing, I tell them, the day that I'm going to be doing, what day they're going on the schedule, either the Tuesday, the Wednesday, or the Thursday. With any other job, I never tell them what day I'm going to do it on. That gives me the most freedom and the most flexibility. So I just tell them, hey, if they ask me to do something, or I, see something that needs doing, and if I give them a quote, a lot of my customers don't even ask for prices. They just say, hey, can you do this particular job? This past week, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I did a fence repair job for a client who had one fence panel that the bottom 2x4 that supports all of the slats of wood, if you would, had rotted away. So the fence panel started falling apart, and, they tried, not being handy. They tried some Gorilla Tape, to hold it in place. And, of course, that, didn't work out too well. So she just, texted me and said, hey, can you do fence repairs? And I said, yes, absolutely. And I sent her a picture of a couple of fence panels. It's pretty common here because of all the rain, the rain will run down the fence panels, and that bottom 2x4 stays wet for long periods of time, and soaks up the water, and it is very common for those to rot. I'll do fence repairs where I basically dismantle the fence panel, replace that 2x4. Sometimes I'll trim the bottom of each of the fence boards, by an inch or two to remove any of the bottom rot, and, reassemble the fence with that bottom 2x4, an inch or two higher, depending on how much rot had to come off the boards, and put a bigger sort of kick panel type, board at the bottom underneath the 2x4. Away you go. So this customer was no different, wanted a fence panel repaired. And of course I was able to, do it on the Friday. Just didn't tell her what day I was going to do it. Just said, yes, absolutely, I can do it. She didn't even ask for a price. Just said, hey, can you fix it? I don't want to replace the whole fence panel, because then it's going to look kind of goofy having one fence panel replaced when the rest of the fence is still in very good condition. None of the boards are falling. Everything's still nice and tight. Just this one panel needs some repair. So I was able to just, hey, it's Friday, let me grab some tools, let me grab some lumber, and head out to that customer's house and do that fence panel. And I was able to take my son with me and go out there and, get that knocked out in about an hour. So just fantastic. It gives me that flexibility to fit those jobs in on those Mondays and those Fridays. Now, the other nice thing is now here, with the season that I'm currently in summertime, is that, most of my lawns will now go during the summer months. As most of you guys know, if you listen to my podcast, I only offer weekly, lawn maintenance. So I don't do lawns every 10 days. I don't do lawns every 2 weeks throughout the season. Every customer gets a weekly lawn mowing until the summertime. Of course, here, because we have so much rain, throughout the year, it's not very common for people to have irrigation systems for their lawns. So that means that traditionally most people just have your generic sprinkler that you buy at the Home Depot, and you put it on your garden hose and you put it out on the lawn. The problem here is that with water restrictions during the summer months, because it does get very dry and there's lots of forest fires and all that sort of stuff, the restrictions have been getting more and more restrictive. So this means that, watering of your lawns during the summer months can only be done, I think for this year, it's been changing every few years, but currently this year it's 2 days a week and only between the hours of 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. And it depends on your actual house address, whether it's an odd number or an even number. Sort of designates which days of the week that you can water. So as you can imagine, for most people, on top of the, just the sort of burden of having to mow their lawn, a lot of people just don't care about their properties, about their lawns. The thought of having to, wake up at 4 a.m. and to go turn on a sprinkler or to move the sprinkler because it may not cover the entire lawn, or to invest in timers or anything is just, not going to happen. We get a lot of dry lawns, and the majority of my customers, do not water, do not fertilize. Probably I would say at least 2/3 of my client list do not, have me fertilize, don't fertilize themselves, and don't water the lawns. They just, want me to mow the lawn. In a lot of cases, if they could get away with me mowing every 2 weeks or once a month even, that's all they would want. And the only reason I will mow weekly is because that's my policy, that I don't, do anything less than that. So because of that, in the summertime, as you can imagine, things get very dry. And of course, at this time, I can't justify going out and mowing somebody's lawn every week. For the majority of my clients, it goes down to mowing every 2 weeks. Only the clients that I fertilize and water continue on that weekly basis. Now, as you can imagine, because my roots are so dense and I've condensed to 3 days a week mowing, that means that on 1 week, I'm mowing 3 days a week, but on that next week, when I call it my off week during the summer, I condense all of those clients that have the fertilizing and the watering, and I do them all in 1 day. It's a long day, but I'll get them all done in 1 day so that I don't have to go out and mow, a second day that week. And what I do is because I mow Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, I condense those into the 1 day a week, and I'll do it on the Wednesdays. So my regular Wednesday clients who happen to be on that list, they get their lawns mowed on that, the same day each week. But for the, handful of clients from the Tuesdays and the handful from the Thursdays, some of them get their lawn mowed a day earlier, and some of them get their lawn mowed a day later on that second, off week, every second week in the summer. This is an arrangement that has worked out generally really, really well for me. Because like I said, it, sort of right in the middle of the week, I get all of those weekly, clients done, on a weekly basis throughout the summer, and everybody else, every 2 weeks for those, July and August months. In September, first week of September, everybody goes back to weekly. Because generally, the rain will start again, that's just sort of the pattern. Everybody sort of returns back to work. Summer break is over. Kids are back in school. So it all goes back to that weekly mowing schedule. So the other nice thing about this is that if you think about it, because I don't tell people what day I'm going to do those extra jobs on those Mondays and Fridays, that also, and on that, that second week every summer, it lets me, or gives me the freedom to go away if I want to. So if, in the past, with my family, we have, because the kids are home from school. My wife is off in the summers as well. So, generally we'll, we might go away. So we've had times where, it's like a last minute decision. We'll be like, hey, you want to go to Disneyland? Take the kids to Disneyland next week or something like that. And we'll just, go online, book some flights and go. Because I know that, for that on week, I can mow up to my Thursday, my regular mows. That Friday, I haven't promised anybody anything. And that way, I can book a flight if I wanted to out on a Friday. That gives me the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to come back, for that Wednesday mow. Or I can have, or arrange for, my brother-in-law, to mow or take care of my clients. We'll do that occasionally, where we'll sort of take turns, and he'll come and just do that one day for me and mow, my customer lawns on that 1 week. And then that way it gives me up to 10 days, where I can go away, without my customers, even missing a beat, before they all have to be done weekly again, and vice versa. Sometimes I'll take care of, my brother-in-law's clients while he's away, on vacation, and take care of, his most important, clients that, absolutely cannot be missed. So that's just sort of, as far as the, how I go about, planning the schedule. Now, as far as the actual mowing goes, what I do is, I always start off with the trimming. So when I'm, going to the property, the first thing I do is I take out the trimmer. I will then hit the property, with the trimmer and do all the flat, trimming around all the perimeters. Now, there seems to be, a bit of, a choice here. I've seen a lot of guys like to just go straight into the mowing first. And they say that, that way they're not excessively trimming, because obviously the mower is never going to get into every little nook and cranny, every little spot. So you do your trimming to get into those areas. So a lot of guys will argue that mowing first, then you trim, because then you can see what areas you've missed with the mower and you can trim with that. I like the reverse. I always do trimming first. After 13 years of doing this, I know what areas my mower is going to get into. I know the machine so well, that, I can trim those areas and I'm not excessively trimming. I know exactly, those areas. And for me, I just find it works best because all of the debris that the trimmer creates is then cleaned up with the mower. If you're mowing first and then you go to trim, then you're getting all that cut grass, all those trimmed edges and stuff onto the freshly cut lawn that you just trimmed. Now, remember, keep in mind here that with my small city lots, I'm always bagging lawns. So here where I'm from, every house has a green waste bin, they call it. They're just these big, large bins with wheels on them. Every house has 3 of them, one for recycling. So for your bottles and, glass and cardboard and paper, all that sort of stuff that can be recycled. Then there's a black one for actual garbage waste. And then there's a green bin for the green waste. So everything as far as food scraps, vegetable scraps, all your yard waste, grass clippings, branches, all that sort of stuff can go in that bin. Now, the nice thing about the yard waste here is that it's unlimited. So if you fill up that green bin, you can also purchase these craft paper bags. They look like the big, brown lunch bags that you would have as a kid taking to school, except they're supersized. They're about the size of a garbage can. And you purchase them at Home Depot. They usually come, or, any hardware store for that matter. You can also purchase them directly from the city. I actually purchased them directly from the city. I can get them at any recreation center for the city. And the reason I purchase them from the city is that they're about half the price, because the city sells them to the residents at the wholesale price at what the city pays to have them manufactured. So it's really, really dirt cheap. It's, under $2 for a pack of 5 of these bags, where at Home Depot, you're probably under $3 for, a pack of bags are about, double the price. So I always get them directly from the city. And I have them on reserve for those, heavier growth periods. If I need to, then I can whip out a bag there and put the extra grass in there. But the bins are very, I would say they're pretty large. I haven't had too many times now, ever since they went to these new bin system, that I've needed the bins. But like I said, the waste is unlimited as far as yard waste goes, so you can put as much out there as you want. And as far as branches and stuff go, as long as you tie them in bundles, where, the garbage man can basically get out there and just toss bundles into the truck, you can have that unlimited as well. So that has cut down a lot of my fuel costs, hauling, grass away, and dump fees, which are, had seemed to be getting pretty out of hand. If you think about, the combination of driving around most of the year with a trailer full of grass when it's always raining, so it's wet and heavy, and then having to pay based on weight to dump that grass, it was getting pretty ridiculous with dump fees and stuff when I first started, and I was like, there's gotta be a better way. And, I started, just leaving all of the grass clippings at, the customers' houses in their bins, and bags before they even had the bin system. And I've been doing that now for, 12 years of my 13 years. I think the first year was the only year that I ever took grass away with me. And I was just thought to myself, I'm not going to last in this business if I have to keep hauling all this heavy, stinky grass with me every day, and having to go to the dump and waiting in line and paying these crazy prices for essentially all this, wet rainwater saturated grass to dump. So, like I said, for me, use the green bins, and it works out fantastically. So after I do, all of my flat trimming, like I said, I enjoy doing the flat trimming better. I think it's just a more efficient way of doing it. And because of the bagging, it just leaves it a cleaner look. So flat trimming first. I will then, if I am edging the property, do my edging next. So depending on the time of year, if it's the beginning, first cuts of the year, then I will take out a blade edger and do it. If it's ongoing weekly maintenance and the blade edging has already been done, then it's strictly a string edge that I do and maintain, and you would not be able to tell the difference, and this, I can only say, comes with lots and lots of practice and a steady hand and some concentration, but it becomes basically just, the trimmer becomes, basically an extension of your arm, and you can, edge sidewalks and driveways and stuff, that have been previously blade edged. You can maintain them on a weekly basis, just nice and crispy, looks fantastic, without any issue. So I do that. It adds a lot of, efficiency for me, because I'm not having to go back to the truck to get the blade edger, or anything like that. And for most of the season, I don't even take the blade edger with me for, most of the season. It's just the trimmer, a blower, the mower. And if I have, bigger properties that day, then I will have the 36-inch walk behind with me as well. And then I'll do that, blade edging. So the next step, and I always start, with the front lawn, as far as the trimming goes, because, hey, that's where I've parked. I've parked on the front street. The front lawn is there. I open the trailer, grab the trimmer. I go do the front lawn, the trimming, the edging. Then I'll go to the backyard and do the trimming and edging in the backyard, and then come out to the front. If I'm doing 2 houses side by side or 3 houses side by side, then I will do, the one house, I will do all of the trimming, in the front yard, And, if it's a connected front yard, some of these houses will have sort of a shared front yard. Then I'll do, the trimming of the second house front yard before going to the backyard. I just find whatever's the most efficient for that combination of houses. And I just go through all of them first with the trimmer. I do not go, do just one house trimming, then mow it, then blow it, then go to the next, grab the tool again and go back to, walk to the next house and do it. I just hit all the houses with whatever tool it is that I'm using. So if I'm trimming, then I trim all those houses if there's more than one house in a row. So after all the trimming's done, after all of the edging's done, so I'm doing the sidewalk edging, I'm doing the driveway edging, and any flower beds I'm edging as well, because the grass not only grows up, but it grows sideways into the beds as well. So I'll trim those as well to give them that nice crispy edge along the flower beds. Looks fantastic. Get that all done. So now all the edging's done, all the trimming's done. You've got, two choices, and I will, play with these depending on the type of property or the growth of the lawn, certain times of year. So for the majority of lawns, if the growth is not heavy, I will, mow next. If the growth of those lawns is super, super heavy, like in the spring times, then I will blow next. Because what I find is when you're doing all your flat trimming and your edging, a lot of debris will end up on the sidewalks and driveways. And what will happen is you'll go back, you'll do your mowing, and then, you go to your last step to blow, and your sidewalks and driveways are full of grass, clippings and stuff from all the trimming and edging, that your first step, and you go to blow, and now you're blowing all that onto that freshly cut and bagged lawn. And so now you got this debris on the lawn that was perfectly clean looking. When the lawn is just going through its regular growth periods, it's not excessively growing, then I will blow only at the end, because the debris is nowhere near as much, and the length of the grass blades that you see on the on the hard paved surfaces are a lot smaller. And when I go to blow them onto the lawn, they instantly disappear into the lawn. They fall, down through the grass blades into sort of the ground or soil surface. But in the spring, like I said, if it's growing 6 inches long and you're trimming, and you got these big, 6-inch long grass blades all over the sidewalk, and you mow the lawn and it's all crystal, clear looking and pristine. And then you take your blower and blow all these grass clippings that are super long back onto the lawn. They're not working their way, down into the soil, and then it looks terrible. So depending on the time of year, this step I switch up as far as the blowing goes. But I would say for the majority of the year and the majority of properties, I will blow at the end only. So I'm trimming, edging, mowing, and then blowing. If I'm doing that step where I am blowing in the middle, so I'm doing my trimming, I'm doing my edging, and then I'm blowing, and then I'm mowing, I will still go back and blow again a second time, just to get any sort of, things that the mower may have missed. Or sometimes you'll find that the mower will blow debris, either from the muffler pointed forward. Sometimes it'll blow stuff ahead of you when you're finishing your run towards, say, a driveway or something. Some of the grass might get blown onto the lawn, or it just comes out the sides. Either way, I'll touch it up again with the blower at the end if I have done the blowing in the middle as well, just to make sure that those lawns are taken care of. Now, keep in mind that if I'm having to do that, if I'm blowing twice on a property, it's also, a property that is super healthy. It's one that's paying me also for fertilizing, and it's also one that is, pretty high end if I'm taking that extra care and time to make sure that it is pristine. So just keep that in mind, that these are also clients that are paying, higher than those minimum prices as well for their lawn mowing. So I just like to take care of them, make sure that everything is in order. So then generally, that about, will do it. I will do the same as I did before with the trimming, where I will mow the front yard first. And then I will go back to the backyard and do that lawn. And again, if I'm have multiple houses in that street side by side, then I'll do them in the same order as I did the trimming as far as the mowing goes. And then as far as the blowing goes, if I'm finishing off with the blowing, it's the same thing. I'll, hit those front yards first, then go back and wrap up all the backyards. Make sure all of my gates are, locked and all that stuff before I leave, and that everything is in order. Now, as far as the actual mowing part of it goes, when I'm mowing a lawn with a 21-inch mower, like I said, the first thing I'm going to do on any lawn is I am going to mow the perimeter. So I'm going to go around the whole perimeter at least once, sometimes twice, but generally just once around the perimeter. And I'm going to work, normally I go in a clockwise fashion around the lawn, and go around it once. And then I start on the one end and I do my stripes back and forth. Now I always try to keep my stripes. So if a lawn is contoured or curved, then I will generally just make it so that all those stripes connect. So if there's a small little area or little cutouts, I will just do little stripes there and then, continue on, until I sort of reach the center, doing full length stripes, just so that it's all continuing. You can go around, it's not as efficient doing stripes as it would be just to go around in circles and work your way down towards the center. And depending on the type of lawn you're doing, maybe you want to do that. If there's a big, something in the middle, you might have a big flower bed or, some obstacle in the middle that just makes it so much more efficient to just go around in circles. But I find that it just doesn't look as nice. It doesn't look as polished. And I think that's the difference between, having a professional lawn service and having, a homeowner do something, is just that fit and finish, that end result, those, crispy edges, all that sort of stuff. What's the saying? The devil's in the details. So I always take my time to, do the stripes where I can. Again, not always possible, depending on, the equipment you're using, depending on, there's lots of scenarios, but if I can, then stripes is what they get, just back and forth, all the way through. And then I'll repeat that same process in the backyard. Now, we all know about changing directions in the lawn each and every week, to make the lawn healthier. This is something I will admit that I don't do, because with small lawns, it's very difficult to do and not very efficient. So I'm always just going for the look of, the lawn. Now, for example, if I have a lawn that is like 5 feet wide, say a section of lawn that's 5 feet wide and 20 feet long, I'm always going to mow the stripes in the same direction. I'm always going to go, the lengthwise of it. The amount of time it would take to mow stripes going in that 5 foot width, back and forth, it would just take forever to do when you could just do the whole, going lengthwise. So not always, possible to do with the types of properties I do. If you're doing wide open lawns, big, huge areas, then of course you can do your stripes in different directions each and every week. But with small residential lawns, like I say, sometimes the lawns are just so small that, you just can't go in opposite directions, and you can only mow in one direction. So, you got to do what's the most efficient, and what makes the most sense. But I always try to keep the stripes, that way it at least looks, fantastic. don't ever get, any complaints. I've had a few customers over the years ask me about changing directions. If they are, asking, then I will try to change directions. I may not do it every week, like I said, because of course, like I said, sometimes it's just not possible. It just takes way too long to do, a particular lawn. And a lot of times they're asking after the fact that you've quoted already and you've given them a price and you've got in your head how you're going to do this job. And now they're asking you to do something or do it in a certain way that is going to add that extra time. Like I say, I may try it, but ultimately it's, not going to happen because it's just not the most efficient way to do that. So that generally wraps up how I mow lawns and how I handle the small residential lawns that I have been mowing over the past few years, going on 13 years now. Small lawns have made up the majority of my properties, and hopefully just sort of going off of my own experience, you guys can pick up some tips there if you've never done lawn mowing, professionally as a business, that maybe you can pick up some tips on some of the things that I've talked about here today. So that's it for this week, guys. Here's to wishing you guys all overwhelming success and freedom in your lawn care business. Bye for now.